Welcome back, and with us now to talk about some interesting facts about our great state is Joe Zwiebel. He is the publisher of the Hartford Business Journal. Joe, good to see you in the program.
Very nice to see you, Dennis.
And we're here to talk about the book of lists, which I love to go through every year because you learn a lot about the state from this, and you and your staff go through all the numbers and you do all this research and you come up with some things. What are some of the trends you've noticed? Because you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Are there segments of our state that are growing and those that are shrinking?
You know, I think the interesting thing about Book of Lists is that it is a great snapshot of the marketplace. And we all sort of understand some of the macro trends and some of the changes that have happened over the last several years in Connecticut. But I think sometimes you can get really overwhelmed by the specific data, right? And what we've tried to do really with Book of Lists is sort of take a sort of the 30,000-foot view and take a real snapshot of the marketplace. And the most important part of that, I see, is, and I think what our readers really come to look for, is those comparatives, right? To be able to look at the list of banks, and not just to know that Webster is the biggest and People's United is number 2, but also to understand who those steady Eddie, middle-of-the-pack players are and how they scale up against some of the big boys. And, you know, that's sense of a snapshot, of a picture of each of the sort of niches that are addressed by the Book of Lists. I think that's really where the magic happens for us.
Let's look at that list of the banks. We have the top 3 of every category, but the top one, as you mentioned, was Webster Bank, and that was followed by People's United, and then United Bank. And of course, we should point out these are banks that are headquartered here in our state.
Right.
Correct.
That's
Not,
right.
Like, you know, obviously Bank of America and Chase Manhattan are in our state.
Right.
But they don't factor into this. Has this kind of held steady, these names at the top for the most part?
You know, they have for the most part. And I think we all understand that, you know, the role that Webster has played in our state over many years. You know, there are certainly areas like banking and finance where there are lots of folks who are in the milieu from outside the state who do play a role. But our focus tends to be, as you mentioned, specifically on Connecticut-based companies.
Okay.
And that sort of gives a different flavor, but I think it's what our readers are looking for from
Next,
us.
we have largest colleges and universities, and no surprise here, UConn is at the top. Central Connecticut State University was second. This surprised me, the number 3, Post-University of Waterbury.
Yeah.
And what's the criteria? Is it number of students or?
You know, I think it is number of students. You're talking to the person who sort of oversees the whole process. If you wanted the specifics of how these lists are put together, you'd talk to Greg Bordenaro.
Sure.
However, I will say that, you know, what our editors have always tried to do is they've tried to find sort of the most obvious and the most logical way to sort of break up, you know, the different size breaks. Not everybody likes that, and not everybody approves, but I think our editors do a really good job deciding on what the criteria are that they're listing.
Next, we have largest manufacturing, United Technology. Stanley Black & Decker is number 2, and the Command Corporation is number 3. And interestingly enough, too, the top 2 anyway certainly have expanded in recent years.
Right. And certainly with the United Technology story, there's a change there, and that might make that list look a little bit different next year. The neat thing about the manufacturing list, of course, is that there's so much that's happening underneath, again, the top 3 players, right? There's so much that's happening in that supply chain that is related to those top 3 players that makes the manufacturing vertical in Connecticut just really, really an impressive place right now. And there's so much happening there.
The next sector, we have largest hotels. Foxwoods number 1, Mohegan number 2, Stanford Marriott is the number 3. None of the Hartford hotels were in the top 3, but they, I believe, are 5, 6, and 7 after that, or something like that. They do come in right after that.
Which is about what you would expect.
Yeah, right? And this is fascinating because we were just talking to the lawmakers about expanding casino gambling, and the casinos, of course, have the money to build these giant hotels, and who knows, maybe if there is one in Bridgeport, that will be making that top 3 list as well.
I would think so, and we'll have to see how that plays out.
And the hotel business, is it kind of holding steady, expanding?
I mean, you know, it certainly seems that it's holding steady. You would like to see it expand, of course, but given the location of Hartford and its ideal situation for sort of regional big regional meetings and what we're doing down at the Connecticut Convention Center is just fantastic. And so I would say that that's a fairly robust place to be right now.
We see also a lot of smaller hotels being built in some of the suburbs, like the Comfort Inns and those types of things. Those seem to be going up everywhere these days.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the largest insurance companies in our state, the Travelers. Number 1, the Hartford. Number 2, and 3, Aetna. Of course, big news that they're merging with CVS. Was this a surprise at all? These, the Travelers number, not really, I guess.
I guess not really. I will say that I think it's a testament to sort of that the innovative spirit that exists in Connecticut. If you look at what's happening with that Aetna merger, that's very, very interesting. And I think, if you look across all the industries that we cover at the Hartford Business Journal and that are mentioned in the Book of Lists, specifically the newsmakers this year, what you see is a lot of innovation. You see a lot of people who are in the old economy sort of working on ways, much like the Aetna and Karen Lynch and what she's done, moving into new and different ways to deliver what they do.
Very briefly, we're going to look at the list of the oldest companies. I love this because I love history, but this was amazing. The Fieldview Farm, 1639. That's the oldest company in Connecticut. That is absolutely amazing. Lyman Orchards coming into 1741, and the Hartford Current, sort of one of the young kids here at 1764. Joe Zwiebel from the Hartford Business Journal. We always enjoy having you on, and thank you very
pleasure.
much. Some great information. 1639.
I like it.
How old's the Business Journal?
25 years old right now.
It's growing. All right. Congratulations.